Her breath held, not from joy, not yet, not when the man who planted this seed now lived in shadows and boardrooms, and in the arms of another woman the night she caught him. Louis. His name still felt like a crack in her throat. The last time they'd spoken, her fingers were still warm from taking off her wedding band and placing it on the edge of his desk like it was ash. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks since she walked out of their penthouse with only her passport, a sweet say, and enough pride to keep her chin from trembling. Hello, my beautiful and amazing family. If you're just joining us here on Love and Twilight, welcome to a place where stories aren't just told, they're felt. Every tale shared here carries pieces of love, heartbreak, healing, and hope. If something in this story touched your heart, don't just watch quietly. Let your voice be heard in the comments. I'd love to know what part moved you the most. Your thoughts inspire not only me, but also others in this family. And please, don't forget to hit that like button. Share with someone who needs a little light. Today, and most importantly, subscribe so you never miss another heartfelt journey with us. And now she wasn't alone. She placed a flat palm against her belly. There was no bump yet, just the haunting knowledge that everything had changed without her permission. The phone buzzed against the counter. Cassia, 2:15 a.m. You okay? She didn't reply. Another buzz followed. Studio manager, 2:16 a.m. New photos from the fall shoot. Your edits needed by 9. Aliona rose slowly, discarding the test like a ticking bomb. Her bare feet touched the floor with grace, years of runway posture still guiding her every movement, even in the quiet. She walked to the window, clutching the silk of her robe tighter around her chest. Outside, the Eiffel Tower shimmered in the moonlight, mocking her with its perfection. Paris was beautiful, but beauty had never protected her. Love hadn't either. She whispered to the glass, "We're going to be okay." Her fingers dropped to her phone. She scrolled past Louis Cavalli in her contacts. Still there. She hadn't deleted his number. Why? Because some wounds bled slowly, and some hearts didn't unlove with divorce papers. She clicked off the screen and turned back toward her room, then paused. Her hand drifted again to her stomach. "It's not just me anymore," she whispered, and finally, she let herself cry. The following morning came with no mercy. Coffee, silence. Her robe replaced with a tailored navy jumpsuit that hid the tremor in her core. Hair pinned, heels laced. On the surface, she was still the Aliona the fashion world admired, the woman who launched La Muse Atelier to global acclaim. But inside, she was unmoored. She arrived at the studio earlier than anyone. She always did. As she stepped off the elevator, the scent of lavender cleaner and dry ink filled her senses. Familiar, grounding. Her assistant, Naomi, had already printed mock-ups for the Fall Paris showcase. Alona didn't blink. She nodded at the layout, red pen already in hand. But when Naomi placed a fresh latte beside her, extra oat milk, no sugar, Aliona felt her stomach churn. She closed her eyes. "No more lattes," she said tightly. Naomi blinked. "Sorry, I thought." "Just peppermint tea." Moving forward, Naomi stared a second too long before nodding and stepping away. And Aliona knew the rumors would start soon. Staff would whisper, stylists would guess, and Louis, no, she wasn't thinking about him. Not when he chose a kiss from Celeste, his global campaign director, over a marriage built with sweat and sacrifice. Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed again. She didn't need to look. It would be another investor reminder, another client note. Instead, she opened the gallery app, scanned through the photos she took of the pregnancy test. 5 angles, as if seeing it differently might change the result. Then she searched Cavalli Fashion Group. There he was, Louis Cavalli, still being praised by Forbes and Vogue Business, still pretending his empire wasn't built with her ideas, her sketches, her heart. And yet, she didn't delete the photos, or his number. That evening, Aliona returned to her penthouse, exhaustion clinging to her bones. The windows glowed with city light. She threw her coat aside, slipped out of her shoes, and made her way to the kitchen. She grabbed a ginger biscuit. Halfway through chewing it, she froze. This was the same thing she craved the first time they thought she was pregnant, before the miscarriage 2 years ago. She'd cried then. Louis hadn't. He just held her and said, "We'll try again when you're ready." She hadn't been. She still wasn't. Yet here she was. This time, he didn't get to hold her. Not after what he did. The doorbell rang. Her heart jolted. Nobody ever rang her door. She approached slowly, pressed the intercom. "Ms. Vasileva," the concierge's voice echoed. "There's a man downstairs. Says it's urgent. He's Mr. Cavalli." Her stomach dropped. She cut the line. Without a word, she turned off the lights, closed the curtains, and climbed into bed, pretending sleep could protect her. Her hand drifted to her stomach again. "Not tonight, Louis," she whispered. "You're too late." The headline didn't scream. It didn't need to. Alyona Vasileva spotted outside Paris maternity clinic. Louis Cavalli stared at the blurry photo for the 5th time. Alyona, in dark sunglasses, oversized coat, hands tucked over her stomach. A nurse holding the door. That stomach. His stomach. He dropped the paper. It crumpled beneath his polished shoes, forgotten like every other worthless thing he once thought mattered. Pregnant. His mouth went dry. The clock in his penthouse office blinked 3:47 a.m. He hadn't left the building since the Milan briefing 2 days ago. Work had been his drug, his punishment, his escape. But now he couldn't breathe. She hadn't called, not once. She used to text him every morning with a single word, "Here." That word used to mean, "I'm still choosing us." And now, this? He pulled out his phone. No hesitation, no plan, just instinct. "Louis, 3:48 a.m., Alyona. I just saw the press. If it's true, if you're pregnant, I need to know. Delivered. No read." He waited 30 seconds. Typed again. "Louis, 3:49 a.m., please. We need to talk. I'm not trying to fight. I just need to hear it from you." Straight to voicemail. He tried calling. 3 times. Nothing but silence. For the next hour he sat frozen, elbows on knees, palms over his mouth. Memories smashed into him like waves. 2 years ago. They were in Nice. A quiet weekend. He'd bought out the rooftop restaurant just to propose in peace. She wore white silk and no shoes. She said yes before he even opened the box. He swore he'd protect her. 6 months ago, they fought over expansion plans. She said he was distant. He said she was paranoid. She found him with Celeste 5 days later. He wasn't sleeping with her. It wasn't that. But that didn't matter. The photo looked bad. The lipstick on his jaw looked worse. Celeste had orchestrated every detail. She always played the long game. But Louis had stood there frozen, pride choking him. Alyona didn't wait for an explanation. She just left. And he deserved it. His intercom buzzed. "Sir," his assistant's voice cracked through. "Board's here for the Milan preview." He blinked. "Board? Milan?" He stood slowly, opened the door, looked at her. "Reschedule." She hesitated. "Sir, this is the reschedule, all of it." She nodded and stepped back. He grabbed his coat, his keys. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, his driver was ready. "Where to, Mr. Cavalli?" "Rue des Beaux-Arts." Her studio. Now. Louis's voice didn't flinch. Now. Paris was quiet in the early morning light. Raindrops streaked the windows like fingerprints from above. The chopper landed atop La Muse Atelier at 5:12 a.m. The rooftop helipad was still slick from the drizzle. He didn't care. He walked straight to the executive elevator, his breath catching with every floor it climbed. He hadn't seen her in person since the day she turned her back without a single tear. Not even in court. She didn't flinch, didn't break. She just let go. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. And there she stood. Alyona didn't move. Her hair was twisted in a low knot, her coat wrapped tightly. Her hand rested, protectively, instinctively, over her midsection. Her voice was calm, flat, deadly. "So, you saw the press?" Louis stepped out slowly, eyes locked to her face, then to the slight curve beneath her coat. "I needed to hear it from you." Too late. He took a shallow breath. "Is it mine?" She tilted her head. "It," she repeated bitterly. "Try 2 of them." He staggered back a step. Twins? Identical. Girls? Silence. Heavy. Brutal. His knees almost buckled. "Jesus, Alyona." She stepped forward, voice slicing through his guilt. "You don't get to say my name like that anymore." He opened his mouth, but she wasn't done. "You think just because you saw a headline, you can come running back like some tortured hero?" I'm not trying to be a hero. You're not. You're just a coward who didn't fight for me when it counted." He flinched. "It was a kiss. Don't you dare try to shrink what you did." Her eyes were fire, tears unshed, fists clenched at her sides. "I needed you, Louis. I needed your presence, not press releases. I needed a husband. I got betrayal and silence." He stepped closer, eyes full of pleading. "They're mine too. Please, let me in." A beat of silence. Then her hand dropped from her stomach. "You want to be involved? More than anything." She exhaled, then started acting like it. They stood in silence, soaked in 1,000 unspoken moments. Louis's eyes drifted to her belly again. His heart ached, not just from longing, but from loss. He had missed everything. The discovery, the first heartbeat, the terror, the joy. He'd missed her pain. He took another step forward. She didn't flinch. "I fired Celeste," he said quietly. She blinked. "The morning after you left. I knew then there was no excuse. I just never got the chance to tell you." Aliona's jaw twitched. "You had weeks. I didn't have the right." She turned, began walking back to her office, then paused. "Don't send her to any more board meetings. She's not welcome in my building." "I understand. And don't pretend you're here for me. You're here because your image is shattered." He didn't reply. Because it wasn't true, but it also wasn't false. She reached her door, then turned back, softer now. "This isn't about us anymore, Louis. This is about them." He nodded, slow and reverent. "Then let me show up for them, even if I never earn back you." She stared at him a long time. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't slam the door. She simply walked through it and left it open. The silence in her studio was always different from home. Here, silence didn't ache. It pulsed. Machines hummed softly. Fabric swatches lined the walls, sketches pinned in rigid order like soldiers in battle formation. The scent of paper, chalk, and iron silk grounded Aliona. This was her sanctuary, her legacy. Until today. Until Louis stood in the center of her design floor like a ghost she didn't ask to see. He hadn't left since she walked away an hour ago. Still standing in the corner, arms crossed, guilt sitting heavy on his frame like it weighed more than his net worth. She paced slowly between mannequins, flipping through hangers, pretending not to notice him, pretending not to feel the heat of his eyes on her back. Finally, he spoke. "This place still smells like you." Aliona didn't look up. "Don't make this sentimental, Louis. I'm not—" Pause. "I'm remembering." She turned then. Face calm, voice sharp. "Then remember the way you looked at me the last time you were here, like I was a stranger, like I was in your way." He inhaled, jaw flexing. "I was scared. I messed up." "No." She stepped closer. "You made a choice. You stood there. You didn't run after me. You let me go." Her voice cracked, but her spine didn't. He looked away. "I wanted to fix it, but every time I imagined calling you, I pictured you not picking up, and it shattered me all over again. So you didn't try." A dry laugh escaped her lips. "Wow, sounds like love to me." Behind them, the sewing machine kicked on automatically. Timed calibration. Aliona didn't flinch. "I need you to leave." He stepped forward, slow. "Careful. They're part of me, Aliona. I want to be here. For the whole journey. Not just the end." She arched a brow. "You want midnight cravings and mood swings? You want swollen ankles and cranky twins in Target at 2 a.m.? Yes." His voice didn't falter. "I want the sleepless nights and hospital scares. I want the moments when you're too exhausted to lift your head, and the only thing keeping you standing is knowing I'm there. I want all of it." Her jaw tightened. "Even if you never get me back." He hesitated. "I'll wait. As long as it takes. I'll earn every breath you give me." The air turned heavy again. Not cruel. Just full. She walked to her sketch desk, sat slowly. Her fingers pulled out an old folder, one she hadn't opened since before the split. Inside were unfinished dress concepts, the last thing they designed together. She flipped through them like old love letters. "You used to sit right there," she murmured, eyes on the empty stool near her station, "sketching behind me while I worked. You'd hum off tune and insist it helped you concentrate." He smiled. "It still does." She looked up. "Then why did we lose us?" Flashback. 2 years ago, she was pregnant. Just 6 weeks. They'd been cautious, quiet. She was terrified. He held her every night. Until one morning, she woke up bleeding. She lost it before she ever got to tell her parents. They cried, together. But then he buried himself in expansion, and she buried herself in work. They stopped holding each other at night, stopped talking about it, stopped healing, and eventually stopped fighting to stay. Louis stepped to the table now, close but not close enough to touch. I didn't lose feelings for you, Elena. I lost access. I didn't know how to reach you anymore. She stared down at her lap. You didn't try hard enough. Silence. Then she looked up, slower now. I've built everything around not needing you. He didn't argue. He just looked at her. And that silence? The one he used to weaponize? Now it felt like surrender. Then, let me be useful, he said. Even if I don't get forgiven yet. A phone rang. It was her assistant. Sorry to interrupt, Miss Vasileva, but the supplier is downstairs with fabric samples. Alyona didn't move. Let him in. I'll be with him in 10. She ended the call, then turned back to Louis. You want to help? He nodded. She pointed to a tall stack of swatch books. Organize those by texture, left to right, no skipping. Louis blinked. You're serious? This isn't a rescue mission. This is my life, and my life has systems. A beat. Then he removed his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and began sorting swatches like his life depended on it. 30 minutes passed. The fabric rep arrived. Alyona took the meeting. When she returned, Louis was still sorting, his fingers slightly stained with dust from the velvets. She tilted her head. You skipped satin. He sighed, annoyed with himself. I'll fix it. She smirked. Good. He looked up. For a second her eyes softened. Just for a second. Before he left, she handed him a card. Clinic name. Appointment time. My next ultrasound, she said. If you're still serious. He gripped it like it was a winning lottery ticket. I'll be there. She met his eyes. Don't be late. The next day, a bouquet of white gardenias appeared on Alyona's desk. No card, no vase, just flowers wrapped in gold tissue. Naomi raised a brow. Shall I put them in water? Alyona didn't look up from her sketch pad. Throw them out. A pause. They're expensive. So was my heart. Naomi didn't ask again. 3 more days. 3 more deliveries. Chamomile. Ranunculus. Even peonies. The Friday flower he used to leave on her chair when things were good. She returned all of them. No calls. No responses. No eye contact when Louis came for board meetings. She kept it professional, tight, cold. It was the only armor she had left. But Louis didn't stop. He sent handwritten notes in navy envelopes, her favorite color. Each one short, precise, unopened. She stacked them in her bottom drawer without reading a word. One night, after everyone had gone home, she almost opened one. Almost. Then remembered the way he didn't run after her when she left. Back in the drawer it went. Cassia called one night. So, he's still chasing? He's trying, Alyona muttered, applying moisturizer in slow circles across her growing belly. And how do you feel? Like I should be stronger. You are. Alyona looked in the mirror. Her skin glowed from hormones. Her belly curved softly beneath her silk robe. She was carrying 2 lives while running an empire, and still hadn't cracked. But some nights, her hand drifted to her phone more times than she'd admit. One morning, Naomi walked in with a smoothie and a sharp tongue. Louis was downstairs again. Alyona didn't flinch. Did you let him up? No, but I told him your next appointment was Thursday, he asked. He looked miserable. I thought. The pen dropped from Alyona's hand. What did you say? Naomi blinked. I thought maybe it was fine. You thought? Alyona stood, stomach tightening, not from contractions but from anger. He doesn't get information from you, not even if he shows up barefoot in the rain. Do you understand me? Naomi's face flushed. I'm sorry. I thought you'd want him there. Alyona closed her eyes. She did. That was the problem. The day of the ultrasound arrived. She almost changed the time, almost canceled. But her curiosity betrayed her. Would he actually show? She arrived at the clinic in a cream coat and flat boots, no makeup, hair in a bun. The nurse greeted her warmly, handed her a clipboard. then turned and said, "Your partner's already inside." Aliona froze. "Excuse me?" The nurse pointed. Through the frosted glass panel, Louis sat hunched forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. Aliona exhaled slowly. "Not today." She stepped in. He looked up, eyes dark, underslept, barely breathing. "Hi." She didn't respond, just handed the clipboard to the nurse and sat down. 10 silent minutes passed. Then the technician called her name. Inside the exam room, Aliona lay back on the table. The technician spread cool gel on her belly, adjusted the probe. The monitor flickered. 2 tiny forms pulsed on the screen. Louis gasped softly. "There they are." His voice cracked. The technician smiled. Perfectly healthy. Girls, strong heartbeats. Aliona's eyes filled, but she didn't blink. She felt Louis's hand slide into hers. She didn't pull away. When it was over, the technician printed the scan. 2 profiles, Zelda and Zoe. Aliona clutched the photos like glass. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall. "You're not supposed to be here," she said softly. "I know." He paused. "But I couldn't not be." She finally looked up at him. "You keep showing up, Louis, but I still don't trust you." "Then let me earn it. 1 heartbeat at a time." She exhaled. "Long, slow. You'll get visitation. I want more than legal slots and weekends." She tilted her head. "Then prove it." He nodded. Eyes steady. "I will." The waiting room was empty when Louis arrived. He paced near the fish tank, one hand buried in his coat pocket, the other gripping a paper bag from Aliona's favorite patisserie. He hadn't slept. Again. This time, he didn't bring flowers or notes, just presence. He checked the time, 7:47 a.m. Her appointment was scheduled for 8. His nerves screamed louder than any boardroom panic he'd ever faced. The glass doors slid open. She walked in without hesitation. Hair in a neat braid, oversized beige coat, sensible flats. Her belly more visible now, rounding with definition. She didn't pause when she saw him, just raised a brow. "You're early." He held up the bag. "No flowers, just ginger lemon tart. Thought you might be sick of roses." She took the bag, opened it, and gave a tight nod. "At least you're learning." Inside the exam room, the same technician smiled. "Welcome back. Let's take a look at your little ones." Aliona lay back, pulling up her sweater without ceremony. Louis sat beside her, hands clenched in his lap. The screen came to life again, this time in greater detail. Zelda and Zoe, 2 growing girls, one kicking, the other curled in sleep. Louis leaned forward, breath stolen from his chest. "That one's always flipping," the technician said with a chuckle, pointing to the more active twin. Aliona smiled faintly. "That's Zelda. She's the dramatic one." Louis's voice dropped. "And Zoe?" "Calm, stubborn, like someone I used to know." Their eyes met briefly, then back to the screen. The technician turned the volume up. Twin heartbeats filled the room. Louis swallowed hard, jaw clenching. "That sound," he whispered. "I didn't know how much I needed it until now." Aliona's fingers rested on her stomach, and slowly, deliberately, her other hand reached over. She took his. No words, just warmth, connection, history, in a single trembling grip. Afterward, they walked outside into the Paris morning. Pale sunlight, street chatter, cold air brushing their cheeks. Louis held the scan images, reluctant to give them back. Aliona didn't ask for them. She just stood near a bench and looked at him. "You really showed up. I told you I would." "You said a lot of things before." They sat on the bench in silence for a moment. She broke it. "Do you remember the time I fainted in the studio during Fashion Week?" He smiled. "You refused to stop fittings, even though you hadn't eaten for 12 hours. And you fed me toast in the back office like I was a child. Because I was in love with you." Pause. "Still am." She didn't blink, didn't smile, just said, "Love isn't enough if it disappears when it gets hard. Then let me stay when it's hard. Stay when it's inconvenient. Stay when you push." She exhaled. Words, again. He reached into his coat and pulled out a tiny notebook. "Then I'll stop talking." He handed it to her. Inside, sketches. Cribs, rocking chairs, soft lighting layouts, a split nursery design, all in her favorite ink color, Sepia black. He stood. You said prove it. I plan to. She sat on the bench for 10 more minutes after he left, flipping through the notebook with shaking hands. Each sketch more thoughtful than the last. On the final page, in messy cursive, I missed everything. Don't let me miss what matters now. She ran her thumb over the ink and didn't throw it away. It had been 2 days since the ultrasound. Louis hadn't texted, hadn't sent flowers, hadn't even tried to show up, which, in a strange way, made it worse. Alona stared at the notebook he left behind, still lying open on her kitchen counter. Crib sketches, room layouts, thoughtful notes beside each drawing. One read, "Both cribs should face the window. Morning light. You said it softens their dreams." He remembered. That was the problem. Cassia dropped by unannounced that afternoon, sunglasses perched in her hair and judgment ready on her tongue. "You look guilty." Alyona arched a brow. "I'm pregnant, not a criminal." Cassia flopped onto the couch. "You let him back in, didn't you?" "He came to the ultrasound. I didn't throw him out." "You didn't throw him out because part of you still wants him." Alyona sipped her tea, ignoring the comment. Cassia leaned forward. "Allie, I love you, but you're playing with matches, and the last time you got burned I had to pick you off the floor." "He's not asking to be loved right now," Alyona said quietly. "He's asking to be included. It's never just that with him." Later that evening, Alona stood in her studio alone. Everyone had gone home. The silence wrapped around her like thread, pulling tight. She stared at the mannequin draped in unfinished organza. Her hands itched for work, for anything that wasn't emotion. The door creaked open. "Louis." She didn't look up. "How did you get in?" "Naomi." A pause. "She said you wouldn't mind." "She's mistaken." He stepped in anyway, held up a small box. "I brought the right kind of chocolate this time." Alyona finally looked at him. "You think sugar is the way back?" "I think showing up matters." He placed the box on her desk. "I'll leave if you want." She stared at him for a long second. "No, stay." He sat across from her. She paced near the dress form, then stopped. "Why now, Louis?" "What do you mean?" "Why now? Why fight now? Why not before the kiss? Why not when I was begging for you to be present?" He swallowed. "I was stupid, proud, caught in numbers and deadlines. I thought you'd always be there. So I was convenient. You were everything. I just didn't treat you like it." She crossed her arms, voice sharper. "You want the girls, I get that. You want to be a dad. But what you're not saying is, do you want me? Or do you just want a redemption arc?" His breath hitched. "I want all of it. I want every fight, every craving, every quiet moment with your head on my chest. I want to see your face when they take their first step. I want to be the one who holds your hand when you scream in labor. I want us. You say that now. I'll say it tomorrow. And the day after. And every day after that." Silence fell between them. Alyona moved to her sketch table, fingers grazing a loose thread. "It's easy to want me now that I'm carrying your legacy. You were always my legacy." That stopped her. She turned. "Then why did you let someone else touch you?" He stood, walked slowly, stopped just shy of touching her. "I didn't feel anything when she kissed me. But when I saw your eyes break, I felt everything I'd ever destroyed." Alyona's throat tightened. She tried to hold steady, tried to stay cold, failed. "I cried for 7 days. I haven't stopped since." He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel his breath. "Tell me to leave, and I will." She didn't move. "Tell me this." He pointed gently to her belly. "Doesn't change anything between us, and I'll stop hoping." Still, she said nothing. His eyes searched hers. "I want the pregnancy, but I want you more." She blinked slowly, then finally whispered, "Then prove it." "How?" "Don't say it. Be it." He reached into his coat again, handed her another envelope. Inside, an email printout, a canceled campaign. Celeste's name removed from all company projects. Louis looked her in the eye. "She's gone. Every trace of her. I didn't just fire her. I buried every file with her name attached. I'm rebuilding the company the way we used to dream it." Alyona looked at the paper, then looked at him. Her lips parted. No words came. He stepped back. "That's the last thing I'm going to say tonight." He turned toward the door, paused. "You don't owe me a decision, but I'll keep showing up. And one day when you're ready, you'll see I never stop being yours." Then he walked out, leaving her with chocolate, an empty studio, and a war inside her chest. Cassia never trusted Louis, not before the kiss, definitely not after. When Alyona told her about the nursery sketches, the chocolate, and the cancelled campaigns, Cassia didn't roll her eyes, she narrowed them. Men like Louis always know how to clean up their mess, just enough to walk back into the house they burned. Alyona shrugged, folding baby onesies on her sofa. "He's not asking for the house yet." "No," Cassia muttered. "He's decorating the porch, hoping you'll open the door." Cassia didn't argue again. Instead, she made a call to someone she knew would invite Louis to the kind of event he'd never say no to. A press-sprinkled art, showing with industry sponsors and fashion execs. A public stage, lit in soft white, where flirtation was currency and discretion optional. Louis accepted the invitation without knowing Cassia's name was behind it. He arrived alone. Black tailored jacket, collar relaxed, watch understated. He hadn't seen Alyona in 4 days, and it was driving him insane. Cassia spotted him from across the gallery. She approached slowly, measured steps, red heels striking the polished floor like punctuation. She wore a crimson backless gown, lips painted deep wine. Her eyes smiled, but her hands didn't. Louis turned when he felt her presence. "You're Cassia, and you're the man who broke my best friend." He nodded. "No defense. Did she send you?" "Absolutely not." She took a sip of champagne, which makes this even more fun. She walked a slow circle around him, voice casual. "So, what's the plan, Cavalli? You think one sonogram earns you a spot in her life again?" "No." "Then why are you really here?" Louis held her gaze. "To prove I don't fold when tested." Cassia raised a brow. "You think this is a test?" "I think you dressed for war." She smirked. "And you came unarmed." She reached out, too familiar. Her hand grazed the inside of his wrist as she leaned in close, whispering, "There's a rooftop bar after this, very private. I've heard it's lovely with company." Louis didn't move, didn't blink. His voice stayed low. "I'm taken. You're divorced. My heart isn't." Cassia pulled back. Her smile faded into something else, something curious. "Huh. You done?" he asked, tone calm. "Just about." She stepped back fully, lifted her glass. "You passed." Louis froze. "You what?" Cassia tossed him a look. She didn't know. She wouldn't have let me do it. But I needed to see it for myself. He stared at her. "You set me up. I protected her." Big difference. Meanwhile, across town, Alyona lay on her side, one hand on her stomach, the other gripping her phone. She'd expected a text, a photo, something, but Louis hadn't reached out. It stung more than she wanted to admit. Then her screen lit up. Cassia, 9:32 p.m. He passed. That was all. But Alyona exhaled like she'd been holding her breath all night. The next morning, Cassia strolled into the studio with croissants and no apology. "You're welcome." Alyona looked up from her sewing machine. "He told you he was taken?" "Like a man who meant it." "And you believe him now?" Cassia sighed. "I believe he's willing to be uncomfortable. That's rare." She placed the croissants on the desk. "And I believe he still loves you." That afternoon, Alyona opened the bottom drawer of her desk and pulled out the stack of navy envelopes she never read. One by one, she opened each. Inside, short messages. No begging, no excuses. Just pieces. "Day 2, I saw a little girl on the metro with curls like yours. I nearly cried. Day 5, I haven't changed the sheets since you left. The scent's faded, but I still sleep on your side. Day 11, I saw a fabric roll labeled Midnight Ivy. You named it on our honeymoon. I bought all of it." By the 7th letter, her tears stained the paper. And still she kept reading. When Alyona texted him, she kept it short. "Alyona, 4:02 p.m. Dinner. 7 p.m. My place. Don't be late. Don't bring wine." No emoji. No explanation. Louis reread it 5 times before replying. "Louis, 4:04 p.m. I'll be there. No wine. Just presents." He arrived 10 minutes early and waited outside until the clock turned exactly 7. He wore a dark sweater over a white collared shirt, sleeves pushed to his elbows, coat neatly folded over one arm. In his other hand, 3 items: a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne, a box of ginger tarts, and a fresh pack of prenatal vitamins. When she opened the door, she blinked twice. "You look like a nervous intern." "I feel like one." She stepped aside. "Come in." Her penthouse smelled of lemon balm and roasted vegetables. The table was already set, simple, elegant. 2 bowls of risotto, sparkling water, mint candles, no music, no distractions, just air, thick with everything unsaid. "Sit," she said. He obeyed. She took the tart box from him and opened it. Her lips curved faintly. "Still warm. From the same bakery near Rue Saint-Honoré. The one where you moaned after the 3rd tart." She rolled her eyes but didn't argue. He poured her a glass of the sparkling bottle, then one for himself. No toast, no sentiment, just sips. Dinner started quiet. He watched her move, precise, unhurried. She was glowing, even if she didn't want to hear it. The silk of her top clung to her belly in a way that made his throat tighten. The girl's still kicking? Non-stop. Zelda especially. "I think she's choreographing." He smiled. "Zoe still quiet? More like selective. Like you?" She glanced up. Their eyes met. Neither looked away. Halfway through dinner, she pushed her bowl aside. "You remembered my cravings. The tart. The vitamins. Of course, most men would have just Googled what pregnant women eat." He leaned forward slightly. "Most men aren't trying to win back the woman they destroyed." She paused, then stood. "I need to change into something more comfortable." Louis's breath caught, but he nodded. "Of course." She disappeared into the bedroom. When she returned, she wore red silk. It wasn't meant to be seductive, but it was. The robe flowed gently around her growing body, highlighting curves he once knew like sculpture. Her bare feet made no sound against the hardwood floor. His gaze dropped and then rose immediately, respectful but burning. She caught it. "It's just fabric." "No, it's a memory." She moved to the kitchen, unwrapping one tart and placing it between them. "We used to eat these in bed, remember?" "Crumbs everywhere," he murmured, smiling. "And you always accused me of licking the icing just to kiss you. You didn't deny it then." "I won't now." She took a bite. Crumbs clung to her lower lip. He reached out, slow, brushed them off with the pat of his thumb. She didn't flinch. "That's not a kiss," she whispered. "I know." His voice had dropped. Warmer, rougher. She stepped closer, but stopped just before their bodies touched. "You said you wanted presence. Be here. Don't touch what you can't hold tomorrow." He nodded. Understood. But then, her eyes flicked to his lips. "You smell like cinnamon," she murmured. "You smell like everything I ever missed." His hand brushed her arm, barely. Her eyes fluttered. "This is a bad idea," she breathed. "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she moved first. Their lips met. Soft, measured, then hungrier. He lifted her gently onto the kitchen counter, careful of her stomach. Her hands tangled in his hair. His mouth traced down her neck, slow, reverent. They didn't speak. They only remembered. His hands mapped her body with familiarity and restraint, touching what he once called home. She gasped when his mouth grazed the hollow beneath her collarbone. He stilled. "Too much?" "Not enough," she whispered. They made love like people stitching a torn seam, slow, trembling, intentional. She sobbed into his shoulder at the peak, breath catching, eyes wide. Not from pain, from surrender. Later he lay behind her, one hand splayed across her belly. The babies kicked beneath his palm. A heartbeat. Then another. "They feel you," she whispered. "And I feel everything I lost, coming back." She didn't reply, but she didn't move away. His lips brushed the nape of her neck. "I'm staying a beat for them, for you, for whatever this is becoming." And she, for the first time, let herself believe him. Aliona woke up before the sun. The penthouse was quiet, but her mind wasn't. She lay still, staring at the ceiling. Louis's arm was draped over her waist, hand spread protectively across her belly. His body was warm behind hers. His breath steady, slow. It felt familiar. That was the dangerous part. She slipped out from beneath the sheets without waking him, walked barefoot to the kitchen. The red silk robe hung loose over her shoulders now. Her skin felt marked, not from bruises, but from memory, from history. She made tea. Peppermint, no sugar, then stood at the counter and waited for her own walls to return. They didn't. He came out 10 minutes later, shirtless, barefoot, hair mussed. She didn't turn. You should get dressed. He paused at the archway. Should I leave? You should answer the question. He walked in slowly, stopped across from her. What question? She lifted her eyes to him. Why did you let it get that far? Silence. He stepped closer, voice low. You kissed me. I did. But only because part of me wanted to believe something changed. He searched her expression, careful. And now? Now I wonder if I just missed what we used to feel. He nodded. Didn't defend himself, didn't reach for her. Instead, he leaned on the counter opposite her and said, I'm not here because I want what we had. I'm here because I want something better. She studied him. Better doesn't erase betrayal. No. But it proves I didn't stop choosing you. She sipped her tea. You let her touch you, Louis. That's not just a lapse. That's a fracture. His jaw flexed. I know. Flashback. That night, Celeste had leaned in too close, whispered things, manipulated timing, but he didn't push her away fast enough, didn't shut it down the way Aliona deserved. And Aliona had walked in just in time to see what looked unforgivable. Back in the kitchen, Aliona folded her arms. You never came after me. You let me walk. I was ashamed. I thought I didn't deserve to chase you. You didn't. A long pause. But I wanted you to try anyway. She moved past him and placed her mug in the sink. This isn't a romance story, Louis. We don't get a clean slate because we made love on a kitchen counter. Then let's not make it clean. He stepped closer. Let's make it real. Let's make it messy. Let's show up anyway. She turned back to him. You think you can just rebuild this by showing up with vitamins and cribs? No. He held her gaze. I think I can rebuild it by showing up when it's hard, when you push me away. When the girls cry for hours and you haven't slept and I don't have the answers. He paused. I want to earn back the version of us that doesn't need a kiss to communicate. Her eyes flicked to his chest, to the scar above his heart, a scar she once kissed after a car accident 6 years ago. She remembered saying, You're not immortal. Stop pretending you are. And now here he was, human, flawed, still standing. She walked past him again. You should shower. Do you want me to leave after? She stopped, back still turned, voice quiet. I haven't decided. He moved toward the guest room, but paused in the hallway. You don't owe me another chance, but I'll still be here. What if I fall again and you're not ready to catch me? His answer came without hesitation. Then I'll fall first. She didn't reply, but she didn't stop him from showering, or from staying for breakfast, or from folding laundry while she took a nap. The rules weren't written yet. But for the first time in months, there were no lies left between them. The apartment smelled like vanilla and warm cotton. Aliona had fallen asleep on the sofa. A soft fleece blanket covered her legs. Her hand rested over her belly like instinct. Louis stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, folding towels. He moved slowly, carefully, like a man trying not to wake a miracle. He heard her stir behind him, a soft yawn. He turned. Hey, she blinked, sat up halfway. Did I sleep long? 43 minutes. I counted. She stretched, winced, backs sore. Let me. He crossed the room before she could stop him. She stayed seated. His hands moved gently across her shoulders. She exhaled slowly as his thumbs found the tight muscles near her neck. You were always good at that, she murmured. You always carried the world between your shoulder blades. His voice was close. She tilted her head slightly, letting him in. Lower. He obeyed, palms against the silk of her robe, fingers tracing gentle pressure down her spine. She closed her eyes. They stayed like that for a long while. No music, no small talk, just skin, breath, memory. She finally spoke. You still know my body. I never forgot it. She opened her eyes, turned to face him. You want me again. I want all of you. She reached for the hem of her robe, paused. This isn't about seduction. I know. This is about choosing to let you see me again. Louis stepped closer. Then let me look. She loosened the tie slowly, the silk parting. Her belly was round now. Her skin stretched with life. She stood bare before him, not flawless, but fully divine. He dropped to his knees, pressed his lips to the curve of her stomach. "Hello, Zoe. Hello, Zelda." Alyona's breath caught. Then she led him back to the kitchen. Not the bedroom, not the sofa, the kitchen counter. Again, where it had started, where it hurt, where it healed. He lifted her gently, placing her on the edge. Careful, his hands explored like prayer. No rush, just reverence. She pulled him closer, wrapping her legs around his hips. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I. What if I can't trust again?" He kissed her collarbone. "Then we rebuild trust with every touch." They made love slowly, eyes open, hands entwined. She cried, not from sadness, but from letting go. He kissed every tear away. Afterward, he helped her down from the counter, wrapped her in his shirt, held her against his chest. Her fingers traced the edges of his ribs. "This doesn't fix us," she said softly. "No." He kissed her hair. "But it gives us a place to start." He made tea while she rested on the stool, legs dangling like a child's. They drank quietly, like people who'd survived something. Because they had. As the evening light dimmed, Alyona leaned her head on his shoulder. "Stay tonight." He didn't ask what she meant, didn't ask if he was forgiven. He just whispered, "Always." The next morning, Alyona stood at her bathroom sink, staring at her reflection. The same eyes, same cheekbones, same steady hands, but something had shifted. Last night's closeness clung to her skin like perfume, faint, persistent, hard to wash off. She wasn't afraid of the man sleeping in her bed. She was afraid of the version of herself that let him back in. She returned to the bedroom. Louis was awake, sitting on the edge of the bed in his white dress shirt, halfway buttoned. No tie, hair still tousled, his phone in one hand, the other massaging the back of his neck. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. "You're up early," she said. "Didn't want to leave without seeing you." "You're leaving?" He nodded. "Board call at 9, Milan preview. I'll be back tonight." She crossed her arms. "It's fine if you don't come back." His head turned, slowly. "Is that what you want?" She didn't answer. He stood, walked over to her, careful. "You're regretting it." "I'm thinking clearly. And what do you see?" "That I'm vulnerable, hormonal, emotional, and you're convenient." That word hit harder than she intended. But Louis didn't flinch. "You think I stayed for convenience?" "You stayed because you needed redemption, because you miss control. I stayed because I'm terrified of missing another moment." She turned away. "I can't afford to trust you yet." "Then don't." He stepped back. "Just let me keep showing up." She crossed the room to her vanity, began brushing her hair. Her silence was loud. He reached for his coat, paused at the door. "I won't pressure you. I won't beg, but I will prove that this isn't about guilt." She finally spoke, quiet, sharp. "Then stop dressing like you're here for a campaign pitch." He glanced down at his suit, smiled faintly. "Would you prefer the apron and boxer briefs look again?" A tiny laugh escaped her lips before she could stop it. He raised a brow. "See? That's what I'm trying to earn. The laugh, not the bed." He left without kissing her. No lingering stare. No dramatic goodbye. Just a whispered, "Tonight. If you'll have me." Hours passed. Alyona buried herself in work. Edits, emails, deadlines, a stack of fabric decisions. Cassia texted. "Cassia, 12:16 p.m. Still pretending you're made of ice?" Alyona didn't respond. By late afternoon, a delivery arrived. Not flowers, not chocolates, a framed photo, her last ultrasound. Zelda and Zoe, tiny faces just barely visible. Handwritten note on the back. "In case I'm ever late, you'll never forget how we looked at them together." She sat on her office couch and stared at the frame for a long time. At 6:48 p.m., a message came. Louis made them cancel Milan. Sitting outside La Muse. "Not coming in unless you say." She walked to the window. Saw the black car below. Him inside. No flash. No press. Just patience. She didn't reply. But 10 minutes later, she walked down and got into the passenger seat. He didn't speak. She didn't smile. But she whispered, Drive. They didn't speak for the first 20 minutes. The drive was quiet, smooth. Paris blurred past the windows, but neither of them looked out. Aliona sat with her hands folded over her belly. Louis gripped the wheel like it was the only thing he could hold on to. Finally, she broke the silence. Where are we going? Anywhere you want. She looked out the window. Then nowhere. Just keep driving. They ended up on a hill overlooking the Seine. The car idled in silence, parked beneath a line of trees. Street lamps flickered in the distance. Aliona shifted in her seat, pulling out a soft-bound notebook from her bag. The one with sketches. She ran her hand over the cover. I read it last night. Louis glanced over, uncertain. All of it? Every page. She opened it, flipped to a torn corner. Read aloud. If love is a home, then I burned the blueprint, and now I'm laying bricks with bare hands. She didn't look up, just let the words settle. You wrote that 4 days after the divorce, she said. He nodded. I didn't know if you'd ever see it, but it kept me sane. You sound like a man who finally realized his wife wasn't furniture. I sound like a man who watched the only person who ever saw him leave and couldn't move fast enough to stop her. She closed the notebook gently. You hurt me, Louis, not just once, not with just the kiss. You hurt me every time you disappeared behind strategy meetings, every time you let someone else speak for you, every time I came home to silence. His voice cracked. I know. You made me feel like I was too much, too emotional, too demanding, too ambitious. You weren't. Then why did you flinch when I asked for more? He met her eyes. Because I didn't know how to give it. I knew how to impress, how to provide, but I didn't know how to be present. Not until I lost you. They sat in the stillness that followed, the kind that feels earned. Then she whispered, I still love you. His breath caught. But I don't trust myself around you. Louis reached for her hand. Didn't grab. Just offered. She stared at it. Then took it. I don't need a perfect version of us, she said. I need a version that tells the truth, even when it's ugly. Then let me start now. She tilted her head. Go on. I didn't just fire Celeste. I issued a company-wide directive. No contact, no reference, no shared campaign credit. I lost 3 investors over it. Aliona blinked. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to show you with action. Not another apology. She looked down. What else haven't you told me? He hesitated. I kept the engagement ring. Aliona froze. The one you never gave me? He nodded. I was going to propose again after Milan. Quietly. No cameras. Just us. Aliona swallowed hard. And now? He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a small box, didn't open it, didn't offer it, just set it in the middle console between them. Now, I just want to earn back being allowed to sit beside you like this. She looked at the box, then at him. You're doing better than you think. They drove back in silence. But this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was comfort. When they reached her building, he stepped out and opened her door. She placed her hand in his. At the elevator, she pressed the button. He didn't ask to come up. He just waited. Then she turned and said, You coming? It started with a text at 2:17 a.m. Aliona, are you awake? He replied in under 10 seconds. Louis, yes. Always, for you. She didn't send another message. She answered in a robe, eyes puffy, face pale. I think something's wrong. What happened? I had cramps, tight, sharp. Then they stopped. Then again. Louis stepped inside instantly. Hospital? I don't know if it's real, or if I'm just overreacting. He placed a hand gently on her belly. Felt nothing. Then felt one small shift. Then another. Zelda. Or Zoe. Moving. We'll go in, he said calmly. Just to be safe. What if it's false labor? Then we'll have had practice. At the maternity triage, Aliona sat in a white gown, legs crossed at the ankle, heart thudding. Louis stood beside her, one hand on her back. The nurse adjusted monitors. The screen lit up. 2 steady pulses. Mild contractions, the nurse said. But nothing to worry about yet. Aliona exhaled. Louis pressed his forehead against hers, whispering, I've never been more terrified of a false alarm. She laughed, small and honest. Welcome to fatherhood. Back at her penthouse, she sat on the couch in oversized pajamas, hair wet from a quick shower. He handed her peppermint tea, then sat beside her, not touching. Just there. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "Waking you, dragging you out. You're carrying two human beings inside you. You never have to apologize to me again." A beat passed. She turned. "You didn't hesitate. I won't again." He spent the night on the couch. No complaints. No pressure. In the morning, she woke to the smell of scrambled eggs and toast. He was in the kitchen, shirtless, focused. She leaned against the wall, watching him work. "Didn't know you could cook. I YouTubed it in the Uber yesterday." She laughed. He turned, pleased. "I just want to get it right. One breakfast at a time." That day he stayed, worked from her studio corner while she managed calls, ran to the pharmacy when she needed vitamins, held her feet during an afternoon nap. When she woke up, she found the crib manual spread out on the floor. Lewis, Might Assembly, reading the instructions with furrowed concentration. "You're building furniture now?" she teased. "Only for queens and their heirs." She chuckled, then winced. Another cramp. He was up in an instant. "You okay?" She nodded, slowly. Later that night she curled up in bed, belly round beneath the covers. He came in, hesitating at the doorway. "You can stay in here tonight," she said softly. "If you want." He crossed the room quietly, slipped into bed beside her, didn't reach for her, just settled in with a peaceful sigh. Moments later, her hand found his. She whispered, "We're not two anymore, you know." "No," he said, lacing their fingers. "We're three, maybe four, depending on who's kicking harder." They lay there under soft light, neither needing to fill the silence, because this wasn't just presence. This was family. And it had finally begun. The design studio smelled of fresh muslin and sharpened pencils. Alyona stood at the center table, pencil tucked behind her ear, hands moving across a large sketch sheet. 4 new designs, each one focused on maternity wear that didn't compromise elegance. Silhouettes that told stories. Stories about women who carried legacies. Lewis entered without knocking, holding 2 drinks, 1 green smoothie, 1 ginger lemonade. He placed them beside her without a word and glanced at the sketches. "You shifted the waistline curve." "Babies don't wait for beauty," she replied, not looking up. "They demand comfort with a runway finish." He smiled. "You just described you." She stopped drawing, turned to him. "I want to collaborate again." That caught him off guard. "On the maternity line?" "On everything." She walked to the pinboard and peeled off a sketch. "We built 2 fashion houses with different hearts. Maybe it's time to create one with a shared soul." He approached slowly. "Are you saying La Muse and Cavalli could merge?" "I'm saying the girl should inherit something unified, not 2 legacies in competition." He studied her. "You trust me enough for that?" "Not yet." She pinned the sketch back up. "But I trust the work. And I believe we can build something that reflects what we've learned." They sat at the fabric table, sorting through swatches. Silks, chiffons, cottons, cashmere blends. Alyona reached for a violet-tinted sheer. "You remember this?" Lewis smirked. "First material we ever fought over. And I won. You bribed me with chocolate. Pregnancy cravings still make me ruthless." They worked in silence for the next hour, sketching, reworking designs, creating a shared vision with minimal words. It felt right, not rushed, not performative, just real. Naomi entered with a packet of invoices and paused at the door. She blinked twice. "I didn't realize you two were," Alyona cut in, calm but clear. "Collaborating," Lewis added, professionally. "For now," Naomi smirked. "The studio hasn't looked this focused in months." Then she left, quietly pleased. Later that night, they reviewed mood boards by candlelight. Alyona leaned back in her chair. "I used to be scared of merging." "Why?" "Because I thought I'd lose my identity inside your empire." He reached across the table. "You were never built to be inside anything I made. You were built to stand beside me." She didn't speak for a while. "Then, if the girls ever doubt themselves, I want them to see what we built. They will. Not just a house or clothes. I mean, something that proves unity doesn't have to erase individuality." "Then let's build that." He stood and walked over to her, offered his hand. She looked at it, then took it. Together, they walked to the front of the studio, Past years of designs, wins, losses, nights spent working until sunrise. He unlocked the floor-to-ceiling boardroom display case, removed 2 plaques, Cavalli Legacy Collection and La Muse Archive Line. He placed them on the table. Time to name something new. Alyona smiled softly. For Zoe and Zelda, he grinned. What do you call a fashion house born from healing? She whispered. Muse and memory. He looked at her. Perfect. And that night the first sketches for Muse and memory were born, not in the name of trend, but in the name of love. The headline dropped before sunrise. Cavalli and Vasileva, back together or business merge? Below it, a grainy photo of Alyona and Louis walking out of her building, her hand barely grazing his body angled protectively toward her. The caption read, Power couple or PR convenience. Inside the late-night rendezvous and whispers of reconciliation, Cassia called before Alyona even finished her tea. Have you seen the cover? Yes. I hate to say I told you so. Then don't. Cassia sighed. You okay? Alyona looked out her kitchen window. Louis was still asleep in the guest room. The apartment was quiet. Still. I'm not rattled, she said. I just didn't want it to happen this soon. Downstairs, Louis opened his phone to 24 missed calls. Board members, executives, one from a fashion blogger who never had his number. He scrolled past all of it and typed one thing. Louis, 7:19 a.m. This wasn't the way I wanted us to go public. I'm sorry. Alyona replied instantly. Alyona, 7:20 a.m. We're not public. Let them guess. At the studio, Naomi entered the design room mid-afternoon with her phone in hand. The Fashion Pulse account just posted a throwback reel of you two launching La Muse. Alyona didn't look up from her fabric board. Let them play memory lane. Naomi paused. They're framing it as a cautionary tale about love and ego and fashion. Alyona set her swatch down. The truth was, Alyona wasn't ashamed, not of carrying Louis's children, not of choosing to let him back in. What unsettled her was the noise, the assumptions, the idea that the world believed they could narrate what she was still learning to live. That evening, Louis found her on the terrace, sipping chamomile and scrolling through the press quietly. He approached, hands tucked in his pockets. You're everywhere today. So are you. She showed him a comment thread. Why do women always forgive powerful men? He'll do it again. They always do. She deserves better. Louis's jaw tightened. I hate this. It's not new. You don't deserve to be talked about like you're weak. I'm not. She turned to face him fully. But if we do this, really do this, it won't be quiet. Not anymore. Then let's be loud with truth. Later that night, she posted a single photo to her private design account, a close-up of her hand on her belly. No Louis. No face. Just her engagement ring from long ago resting beside the ultrasound photo on the table. Caption, they'll write their own stories one day. Until then, I'll live ours, out loud and unafraid. Cassius sent a heart emoji. The post went viral in under 3 hours, but Alyona didn't check the likes. She went to bed early, curled into the crook of Louis's arm, whispering, if you ever give them a reason to be right about you again, I won't. Then don't disappear, not in silence, not in fear. Never again. He kissed her temple, slow, and in that moment, they stopped trying to control the story and started living it instead. The sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Cavalli showroom, casting golden light over mannequins dressed in the Muse and memory line. Alyona adjusted the hem of a silk maternity gown on display, her fingers steady, but her heart wasn't. Behind her, Louis stood with a folder in hand, watching. You've read the lease agreement twice, he said, and I'll read it again. It's a co-living space, not a corporate merger. You want to move in. He placed the folder down. I already live in your world. I just want to share your roof now. She straightened up, turned. You say it so casually, because I mean it. I don't want to pack a bag every time you need a foot rub. I want to be the reason the lights are already on when you get home. That sounds good today. And tomorrow, what about the day I get frustrated and tell you to leave? Then I'll sit in the hallway until you forgive me. She looked away. Louis, this isn't just about you fitting into my routine. It's about whether my life can carry both you and them without collapsing again. He stepped closer. I'm not baggage. I'm a builder now. I don't want to interrupt your life. I want to expand it. Alyona's eyes glistened. Every time something felt permanent, it cracked beneath me. Then let's build permanence slowly, brick by brick, no pressure, no rush, just roots. She hesitated. What if I say not yet? Then I'll wait at the door until your heart says yes. They stood in silence, mannequins watching like still sentinels of their journey. Then, slowly, she walked toward him, took his hand, and placed it on her stomach. The twins kicked. Louis inhaled. They know I'm here. They do. Then she pulled him gently toward the display mirror. Framed in the glass, him, her, the bump. No filters, no press, just them. She leaned in and kissed him. Not rushed, not for show, but with full weight, of trust returning, of love chosen again. Cassia entered from the back hallway and paused. Saw them, smiled. Should I give you two a minute? Alyona turned, lips still tingling. We're just figuring out how to breathe in the same space again. Well, Cassia said, dropping her keys on the table. If you're building a life, you might as well start with a showroom kiss. That night, Louis didn't bring a suitcase, but he brought his toothbrush and placed it quietly beside hers. No conversation, just permission, unspoken. When she found it later, she didn't remove it. She just smiled and turned off the bathroom light. It started with pressure, not the kind Alyona could shrug off, not the kind she could breathe through with herbal tea and self-talk. This pressure gripped her lower back and wrapped around her abdomen like a tightening belt. And it didn't release. She was standing in the middle of a board meeting. La Muse's production leads were pitching timeline shifts for the summer line. Cassia noticed first, Alona's knuckles turning white as she gripped the edge of the table. Allie? Alona didn't answer. She exhaled slowly, forcing her face to stay neutral. Another cramp hit. Harder. She winced. Cassia stood immediately. Meeting's over. Now, in the hallway, Alyona leaned against the wall, eyes shut, sweat rising to her hairline. How far apart? Cassia asked. I don't know. 10 minutes? Maybe 6? You need a hospital. Now. Alyona reached for her phone, hands shaking. Cassia stopped her. Let me. She dialed. Louis answered on the first ring. Cassia, we're at La Muse. Something's wrong. I'm on my way. He didn't ask questions. Didn't waste time. It took 9 minutes. The chopper touched down on the building's helipad while Cassia helped Alyona down the service hallway. Louis rushed out, shirt untucked, headset still hanging from his collar. When he saw Alyona, pale, lips pressed tight, one hand under her belly, he froze for half a second, then moved. He scooped her gently into his arms. I've got you. She didn't protest, didn't argue, just rested her head against his chest. Inside the aircraft, she lay back against the leather cushions while Cassia checked her pulse and Louis held her hand. It's too early, Alyona whispered. We don't know that yet, he replied, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. I'm scared. Me too. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and lavender oil diffusers, an attempt to blend tension with calm. Monitors beeped steadily. The OB arrived, soft-spoken but clear. Braxton Hicks, strong ones, dehydration, exhaustion. Not active labor yet, but close. You'll stay overnight. Alyona nodded, swallowing hard. The girls, strong heartbeats, no signs of distress. After the doctor left, Alyona lay in bed, eyes red. Louis sat beside her, hands clasped between his knees. Cassia stood at the door. I'll head out. Text if you need anything. Thank you, Alyona whispered. Cassia glanced at Louis. Stay, no matter what. I will. The room was quiet again, just the two of them, and the soft, steady rhythm of twin heartbeats echoing from the monitor. Louis stood, walked to the small overnight closet, pulled out the blanket, fluffed the spare pillow, laid it beside her bed on the pull-out cot. But before he lay down, she reached for him. Don't sleep over there. He turned. You sure? She nodded slowly. I want to hear you breathe tonight. He climbed in beside her, careful not to disturb the monitor leads. Their hands found each other under the sheet. At 3:21 a.m., another contraction woke her. Sharp, sudden. She gasped. Louis was up instantly. Breathe. Just breathe with me. He cupped her face, eyes locked on hers. We're okay, one wave at a time. She did. She breathed with him, and when it passed, She exhaled and whispered, "You didn't flinch. I already lost you once. I'm not blinking again." They lay back down, his hand on her belly. One kick, then another. He whispered into the quiet, "I've never felt more alive than when you needed me like this." Aliona's reply came soft, "I don't want to need you. I want to choose you." He kissed her temple. "Then keep choosing. I'll keep earning." And as the machines hummed and morning crept toward dawn, they lay together, two imperfect hearts anchoring three more. The contractions returned at dawn. This time, stronger, rhythmic, unforgiving. Aliona didn't panic. She gritted her teeth, gripped the bed rail, and rode the wave. Louis was by her side, hand locked in hers. "It's time," she whispered. He nodded. "Then let's meet our girls." The delivery room was prepped within minutes. 2 cribs, 2 nurses, 1 midwife. Monitors flickered. The air pulsed with anticipation. Aliona lay back, legs positioned, sweat dotting her brow. She didn't look fragile. She looked like power in motion. The OB gave the signal. "We're ready for your first push." Louis leaned close. "I'm right here. Don't leave me," she breathed. "Never again." The first push tore through her. She cried out, head thrown back. Louis gripped her hand tighter. "You've got this. Breathe. Just breathe, Aliona." Another push, then another. She screamed, but didn't stop. She didn't beg. She fought. After the 7th push, the nurse called out, "We have a head." Aliona wept, half from pain, half from the shock of being this close. Louis kissed her knuckles. "You're almost there. Just a little more." One final contraction. One final cry. And then, "She's here." The sound of a baby's first breath broke the room wide open. A nurse lifted a squirming red-faced girl into Aliona's view. "Zelda." Louis stepped forward, voice shaking. "Hi, baby. I'm your dad." She wailed in reply. He laughed through his tears. "She's loud." Aliona smiled faintly. "Just like me." The nurses worked quickly, cleaning, checking vitals. No time to rest. Another contraction hit. Harder. Aliona gasped. "Zoe's not waiting." They reset positions. Aliona gritted her teeth, her body trembling. Louis pressed his forehead to hers. "You already did the impossible. Now do it one more time." 15 minutes later, the second cry pierced the room. Softer. Calmer. "Zoe." Louis was crying now, openly. The nurse handed her over. He took her in his arms, barely breathing. "You're perfect." He turned to Aliona. "They both are." Aliona lay back, exhausted, tears streaming silently. 2 girls, 2 hearts. One storm survived. Louis stepped closer, one daughter in each arm. He kneeled beside the bed. "Look what we made." Aliona reached up, touching Zelda's tiny fingers. Then Zoe's cheek. "They're real," she whispered. "They're ours," he said. The nurse approached. "Do you want them to stay in the room?" Aliona nodded. "No one else is holding them tonight." She reached for Louis's hand. "You stay too." He kissed her forehead. "I'm not going anywhere." As the room dimmed and monitors softened to steady lullabies of life, Aliona drifted into sleep. Zelda in her bassinet, Zoe beside her, Louis's hand in hers. Outside the room, a whiteboard read, "Welcome Zelda and Zoe Cavalli," and beneath it, in a nurse's script, "Strong hearts, loud lungs. Born from love." The hospital released them 3 days later. No press, no balloons, no flashy announcements. Just Aliona in a soft beige wrap dress and Louis beside her, carrying 2 identical carriers with the girls asleep in matching floral onesies. Outside the Cavalli estate, the gates opened before they even reached them. The staff had been told not to make a fuss. Instead, the house was quiet, warm, ready. The nursery smelled of lavender and clean linen. 2 bassinets, custom-stitched blankets, a handwritten note from Cassia on the glider chair. "You're not alone anymore." That night, Aliona tried to sleep, but the quiet was too loud. She rose, crept to the nursery. Louis was already there, holding Zelda in one arm, rubbing Zoe's back with the other, wearing a t-shirt, hair messy, barefoot, a father. He turned when he saw her. "You okay?" She nodded. "I just needed to see them." He kissed the top of Zoe's head, then placed both girls gently in their bassinets. "Come with me." She followed him down the hallway, past the glass railing, past the hallway portraits, into the studio, his favorite room, her least visited one. He flicked on the light. She gasped. The walls were covered in sketches. Of her, of the girls, of the three of them. One canvas rested on the center easel. Aliona, mid-laugh, hair untamed, holding both twins in her arms like victory itself. "Louis." He handed her a key. Small, gold, a sapphire in the middle. "What's this?" "This isn't a proposal." She raised an eyebrow. "Then what is it?" "It's the key to the master closet I emptied out. For you, for us." She turned it over in her hand. "I told you I wasn't ready to marry again." "I know. And you still did all this?" He stepped closer. "I'm not offering a ring, Aliona. I'm offering permanence. Not because I need a ceremony, because I choose you every morning, whether you wear my last name or not." She was quiet for a long time. Then she walked to the easel, studied the brush strokes. "I look strong in this, because you are." She turned back to him. "And you? What do you get out of all this?" He smiled. "Peace." "That's new for me." They stood there, not lovers in heat, but partners in truth. She placed the key on the nearby shelf and stepped into his arms. "You know what's better than a ring?" "What?" "This." They didn't kiss. Not tonight. They just held each other, heartbeats aligned. And outside, the moonlight bathed the sketches like silent applause. 1 month later, the twins were no longer fragile. Still tiny, still wide-eyed, but stronger, heavier. Their cries had rhythms now, their breathing steadier. Zelda clung to her bottle like a tiny executive in a boardroom brawl. Zoe preferred to be sung to first. Louis was up most nights, not because Aliona couldn't, but because he wanted to. He had missed too much the first time with his first family, the family he lost to ego. This time, he was present. This time, he was everything. Aliona stood at the window that morning, holding Zelda against her chest, watching Zoe nap in Louis's arms on the couch. He looked nothing like the CEO who once ruled Cavalli with cold logic. Now, he looked like peace. He looked like forever. Cassia arrived with her camera just before noon. "Today's the day," she grinned. "For what?" Aliona asked. "Your family portrait. No studio, no makeup artist, just them. In their backyard, sunlight, olive trees, a quilt blanket on the grass. Zelda in Aliona's arms. Zoe curled against Louis's chest. Cassia knelt to frame the shot. "Don't pose. Just be." They didn't. They sat barefoot in the grass. They laughed when Zelda spit up on Louis's shirt. They sighed when Zoe reached for Aliona's pinky and held on like it was her lifeline. Cassia snapped the photo. One frame, one forever. Later that night, after the twins were asleep and the house fell quiet, Louis opened a folder on his desk. Inside, legal papers. He stared at them for a moment, then closed the folder again. Aliona stepped in behind him. "You didn't file them?" He shook his head. "Not yet." "Why?" He turned to her. "Because we don't need marriage to prove we're a family." She stepped closer. "But if we ever want to, then I'll be waiting. No pressure, no clock." She kissed him. Slow, certain. Not like the first time. Not like the rushed, breathless nights before, but like home. They didn't go to bed right away. They stayed in the nursery, just sitting on the carpet between the cribs, watching, listening, living. There were no flowers, no aisle, no vows. But there was unity, and unity didn't whisper promises, it lived them. If you believe in love that fights for redemption, comment. Love deserves a second chance. Like, share, and subscribe to Love and Twilights, where stories remind us that love doesn't give up. It grows.